You are now looking at a Toyota CHR in cosmic blue. And remember how the world recoiled in unison with a collective gasp when Toyota released this bat excrement crazy design a few years ago? Heavens above, how did the maker of slab-sided pickup trucks come up with something that could make Aston Martin stare? Our admittedly far-fetched theory is as follows. Toyota needed a sacrificial lamb, something they could chuck into a volcano to please the design gods. Because all their vehicles were a snooze fest of dull proportions and dreary details, only something outrageous would give them the street cred they so secretly desired. And that's why the C-HR was born. Not just as a subcompact SUV, or a way to irritate Honda with its badge hyphenation, but to show us all that Toyota could really let their hair down if they needed to. And what did we all do? After a few oohs and ahs, we mostly ignored the churr and bought something else. Does that mean it can go away now? We don't think so. Despite its loony shape, this vehicle fills an important gap in the Japanese manufacturer's lineup. And unless you haven't noticed yet, most other Toyotas have suddenly taken a daring leap in terms of design. RAV4, Corolla, even the big 4x4s have quite a bit of style going on. Thanks again, CHR, for paving the way. Hopefully that trend will continue, because I will immediately stick my hand up as one of Toyota's biggest design critics. Solid cars, super value, snoring looks. The CHR was the first ever Toyota which captured my interest, and as mentioned earlier, its chiseled nose and freaky creases wandered into the likes of the Corolla and Corolla hatchback, whose looks are also quite fancy, by the way. Unfortunately, it may take a few more years for the buying public to follow suit, because most punters appreciate the nondescript looks of their trusty Toyotas. Those among us who don't want to make a scene will have to shop elsewhere until the inevitable happens and every single new car will look like a Picasso painting. That description also applies to the cabin of this front-wheel drive city SUV. Look at the disproportionate but beautifully swooping shapes around its driver-focused infotainment screen, and how that piano lacquer surface dances over the outer air vents and down the stunning door trims. While we're down here, just look at the weave pattern in those surfaces. It's beautiful. I'd like a gym bag made of that material, please. I could spend hours drinking in all the fantastic shapes, but here are a few more of my personal highlights. The boomerang dome light, that bewildering ceiling indentation, bent climate controls, bizarre steering wheel shapes, and that chrome gear lever top. Again, what the actual? Just to prove that I wasn't completely smitten with superficial stuff, I've noted a few negatives from my days of driving the striking blue C-HR. Because of its shape, the front window/mirror/quarter light area is a bit messy, nor does the door card meet the dashboard perfectly, on both front doors. The rear windows, again as victims of the design, are incredibly small and will give claustrophobic passengers a hard time. The rear door handles also emphasize form over function, so their shape and color contrasting is sublime, but their physical position and shape is incredibly challenging for small or frail operators. I could go on about the tiny rear windscreen or bad 3/4 visibility, which is par for the course by the way, but would much rather point out the intricate alloy wheels, that chunky backside with wild curves, or how this two-tone blue and black paint job makes the roof look like it was stuck onto a convertible spaceship from the year 1955. Also, at this point, we should probably tell you what this car is like to drive. The biggest hurdle in this vehicle is that it doesn't come with vertical thrust rockets, but a rather puny 1.2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. Nonetheless, it still puts out 85 kilowatts, or 185 Newton meters, through either a 6-speed manual or this CVT effort. CVT means continuously variable transmission, so it's one of those scooter-type gearboxes which love to whine or drone a lot. Most of us don't mind it, but we think it's an uninspired choice for such a striking car. Also, instead of offering manual or CVT for all 3 trim levels, the top model can only be had with this strange transmission. Before you dismiss the fancier C-HR because of this, we urge you to take one for a test drive because, like most competing brands, Toyota has managed to tone down the drone with programmed or simulated gear changes. As painful as that may seem to an engineer, most buyers don't want efficiently constant RPMs. The simulated cog swaps can be seen in our performance tests, which yielded a best 0 to 100 km/h sprint time of exactly 11 seconds. Toyota claims 11.1. Standing on the brake pedal from 100 km/h made this bright blue machine stop dead in exactly 2.83 seconds and 36.7 meters, both of which are fantastic values. More importantly, this vehicle is quite easy to pilot around town, bar the visibility issue, because the gearbox stays well within the engine's usable torque range. Full throttle commands are obediently dealt with in all but high-speed scenarios, while the slightly firm suspension and 225/50 R18 tires provide a relatively smooth ride. But that's probably secondary to anyone who's genuinely interested in this Toyota CHR. Yeah, maybe the dealer count appeals to them, but our bet is that almost every buyer chose this car because it just looks so amazing. And on top of that, hopefully it'll be just as reliable as all its siblings from that brand.